السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Welcome back to our Ramadan series, Living with Prophet Yusuf. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. As many of you guys can see that we are at the cusp of the end of the story. So, this surah has 111 ayats, and we are currently at ayat number 65. And we pretty much have about 3 more days before Ramadan is over. We have tomorrow, which is Wednesday. We have Thursday and then Friday. And the Eid will either be on Saturday or Sunday, inshallah ta'ala. So we're hoping, inshallah, between today and Friday, we could be done with this story, bi'idhnillah. And after Ramadan, that'll be it. Okay. All of the previous classes are uploaded to YouTube, so you can go on to my YouTube page and you can find every single class that we've had, starting from 1 all the way up until yesterday, which was lesson number 16. So, yesterday, we stopped at the brothers going back home to Yaqub and telling Yaqub their experience that they have. The YouTube channel is Shadeed Muhammad. I don't think I need to pin it. Shadeed Muhammad. Or Rawdah, Rawdah. So when they went back to Yaqub, they went home back to their father, they told him about their experience, right? And they told him that they needed to bring Binyamin back to Egypt with them if they wanted more food, right? If they wanted to have more supplies, then they needed to bring Binyamin back. Then, of course, Yusuf, he strategically put their merchandise back in their bag. He said, so that when they got home, perhaps they will see that, they will know, that Yaqub will know that it's the real thing, that they're not lying to him. Yusuf knew that if they went back to Yaqub with the narrative that they needed to bring Binyamin back to back to Egypt, Yusuf knew that he wouldn't have believed them. So he had to make it believable, right? He had to make it believable. And by putting their things back in their bags, and when they opened their bags, فَلَمَّا فَتَحُوا مَتَاعَهُمْ وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ. And when they opened their bags, they noticed that their merchandise that they took with them to bargain and barter and trade with, they took with them, it had been returned back to them. All right? وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتُهُمْ رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ. They found their merchandise, they found their supplies returned back to them. All right? And then they said, يَا أَبَانَا ما نبغي هذه بضاعتنا ردت إلينا. They said, oh, our father, we should never desire anything else. He returned, not only did he give us supplies, but he also returned to us the things that we took with us to go barter with. So it's as if he gave us the supplies for free. And Yusuf knew that Yaqub would never believe them if they went back with the narrative. So he did this. So Yaqub alayhi salam, after kind of looking at the whole situation and considering this, Yaqub says to them, لَنْ أُرْسِلَهُ مَعَكُمْ حَتَّى تَأْتُونِي مَوْثِقًا مِنَ اللَّهِ. Yaqub said, I will not send him back with you. I will not send Binyamin back with you until you swear a solemn oath to me in Allah's name, until you give me an oath in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Going back, the last lesson that we covered was lesson number 56, which was having husnul dhann, having good thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As when they first pitched it to Yaqub, Yaqub said to them, Hal amanakum alayhi illa kama amintukum ala akhihi min qabl. Am I to entrust him? Am I to entrust Binyamin with you like I entrusted Yusuf with you? Look at what you did with Yusuf. And then he said, Wallahu khayru hafidhan, that Allah is the best of protectors. وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ, and He is the most merciful of those who have mercy. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not take my second son away from me. I have enough husnul dhann. I have enough good thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to know that He would not do this to me twice. And we extracted from that the importance of having husnul dhann, good thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, despite the circumstances and conditions and situations, based upon the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ana inda dhanni abdi bi, wa ana ma'ahu idha dhakarani," that I am as my servant thinks I am. That how you believe about Allah, what you believe about Allah, will determine how much Allah will do for you. Allah's engagement with you is contingent on your belief in Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's engagement with you as a human being, as His servant, is contingent upon your faith in Him. If you don't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do it, He's not going to do it. You have to have husnul dhann, good thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because our thoughts about Allah determine our behavior, our action, and it also determines how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to engage us. As Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, أَنَّ الْمُؤْمِنِ يُحْسِنُ الظَّنْ بِاللَّهِ فَيُحْسِنُ الْعَمَلِ, that the believer has good thoughts about Allah, so he does good deeds. That when you think Allah is going to reward you, you're going to do good. When you think that Allah is going to forgive you, you're going to ask for forgiveness. If you think that Allah is going to have mercy upon you, you're going to seek His mercy. When you think that Allah can get you out of a situation, then you're going to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's assistance in getting you out of that situation. Al-mu'min yuhsin al-dhann billah fa-ahsan al-amal. That the believer has good thoughts about Allah, so therefore he does good deeds. وَأَنَّ الْفَاجِرِ, and the sinful person, أَسَاءَ الظَّنْ بِاللَّهِ فَأَسَاءَ الْعَمَلِ, and the fajr, the sinful, rebellious person, has evil thoughts about Allah. He doesn't believe that Allah is going to forgive him, فَأَسَاءَ الْعَمَلِ, so he continues to do evil deeds. All right, so it's important for us to be mindful of our thoughts, because our thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determine how Allah will engage us. All right, so Yaqub alayhi salam, he kind of considers. He said that I will not send Binyamin with you until you swear a solemn oath in front of Allah. Ta'tuni bi mawthiqan min Allah. Until you bring, you bring me a promise from Allah that you will protect Binyamin and you will bring him back to me. You will protect him and you will bring him back to me unless you yourselves are surrounded by enemies. And when they had sworn the oath, Yaqub said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قَالَ اللَّهُ عَلَى مَا نَقُولُ وَكِيلٌ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a witness over everything that we said here. That Allah is a witness over everything that we've said here. All right? Couple of pointers here. Yusuf alayhi salam was essentially the one who got Binyamin to come with them. All right. Yusuf basically left the father no choice. All right. But to think that it was a good idea to send Binyamin with them. And it also speaks to the fact that when someone does good to you, if you don't return the favor, they basically own you. Because look at all of what Yusuf did to them, and they almost felt like they were, obligated to respond. And this is why in Islam, the Prophet ﷺ said that if someone does something good for you, then repay the favor. Right? Repay the favor. Because if you don't, you're going to feel indebted to that person. And that level of indebtedness should only belong to God. We should never feel that we are indebted to a person, that person basically can control and dictate our moves because we feel like we are indebted to them. Yusuf basically gave them all of these supplies, returned them their goods back, leaving them basically no other choice. And so Yaqub said, considering that if I'm going to send Binyamin with you guys, you're going to have to give me an oath. And then he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahu ala ma naqulu wakil. He said that Allah is a witness to everything that we say here. You're giving me a verbal commitment and agreement, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a witness over it all. All right? So, you guys be confusing me sometimes. Lesson 56. I have lesson 56, or was that 57? Husnul dhan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You guys be confusing me sometimes. Lesson 56 was what? Husnul dhan with Allah. Oh, 56 was learning how to connect the dots. Okay, so lesson number 57 was to always have husnul dhan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, so Yaqub, he says that Allah is a witness over everything that we say. Sometimes people renege. Sometimes people make verbal contracts, verbal agreements, right? Sometimes people make verbal agreements. 56 is husnul dhan. All right, we didn't get to lesson 57 yet. You guys are confusing me. I know what I have written down. Lesson 55 was connect the dots. Lesson 55 was connecting the dots. Right, thank you. And lesson number 56 was what we left off yesterday. And that was husnul dhan, having good thoughts with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, thank you. All right, so now we're on track. All right. So sometimes people make verbal contracts and make verbal agreements. Sometimes people make verbal agreements and they think when they make these verbal agreements that they can renege and they can blatantly deny something that they said at the beginning. Sometimes this happens with marriage. So a brother will say verbally, you know, I don't want to marry another wife, and I'm not interested in polygyny. And then you kind of renege on that a year or two down the line. Or you make a woman a promise that I'm going to give you this, or I'm going to give you that. You make a promise of a dowry that I'm going to give you this. And then you pronounce divorce on the woman. And then when she asks for the dowry back, you say, oh, I never promised you that. I never gave you that. Understand something, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a witness over everything that comes out of our mouths. Yaqub said to them, Wallahu ala ma naqulu wakil, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a guardian over everything that we say here. You gave me an oath that you're going to protect Binyamin and you're going to bring him back to me unless you are attacked or surrounded by a group or by an army. And in other words, that, you know, you didn't have the ability to defend yourselves against whatever attack or onslaught that you were up against. And in that case, you are excused. But a lot of times people make verbal agreements and then they renege. They blatantly deny something that was agreed upon. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's witness is sufficient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala know what you said. Allah knows what you said. You can deny in my face that you never said that. You can deny that you ever agreed to that. You can deny that you ever had anything, that you said anything remotely like that. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember the statement of Yaqub, Allahu ala ma naqulu wakil, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a witness over everything that we say. Every word that we utter that comes out of our mouths, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a witness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in surah number 17, ayah 34. Turn to 17, ayah 34. Turn to surah number 17, ayah 34. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. And fulfill your oaths, fulfill your agreements, fulfill your contracts. إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. Because every agreement that you make, you will be asked about. إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. Every agreement that you make, you will be accountable for, you will be questioned about. You can say all day long in my face, no, I never said that, I never agreed to that. Okay, cool. You never agreed to that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a witness that you did. And you will be asked about that Yawm al-Qiyamah. You can tell me anything. You can deny anything. But Prophet Yaqub is making it very clear to them that the oath that you are taking, the oath that you are giving me, that you're going to bring Binyamin back safely, you will be accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will be accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Yaqub was between a rock and a hard place. All right. And they needed food and supplies, but he didn't trust them. Yaqub didn't trust them. How could he? Look at what they did to Yusuf. How could he trust them? Look at what they did to Yusuf. But he trusted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he made Allah a witness to what was happening. So Prophet Yaqub didn't trust his sons, but he trusted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we move on. We move on to the next ayat, where Yaqub now, as his brothers are making his sons are making preparation to head back to Egypt with Binyamin. So as a father, he's giving his sons some advice on their trip and on their journey. He said, Ya baniya, la tadkhulu min babin wahidin, wadkhulu min abwabin mutafarriqa. وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَعَلَيْهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. So he's given his sons some advice on their journey back to Egypt. He says, "O my sons, لَا تَدْخُلُوا, do not enter into Egypt. Min babin wahidin, don't enter into Egypt through one way. Don't take one path into Egypt." He said, but enter. وَادْخُلُوا مِنْ أَبْوَابٍ مُتَفَرِّقَةٍ. He said, but enter into Egypt through different areas. Meaning some of you go this way, some of you go that way, some of you go this way, some of you go that way. As some of the scholars of tafsir mentioned that there were 4 entrances into Egypt during that time. And he's telling his sons, don't enter all of you into Egypt through one pathway or through one gate. He said, but enter into Egypt through multiple gates. Why is he telling them this? Why is he telling them this? Let me see if one of you can pick up on this. Why is Yaqub telling them not to all enter into Egypt through one path, but to take multiple paths? Some of you go this way, some of you go that way, some of you go this way, right? He said, and I cannot avail you against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anything. The decision rests with Allah, and in Him I put my trust, and let those who trust put their trust in Him. In case they were going to be set up, they might get killed, right? So let's pay attention to this wisdom. Yaqub, as some of the scholars mention, that Yaqub was afraid of the evil eye. Yaqub was afraid of the evil eye. Why? Because his sons were handsome. They were all handsome. All of his sons were handsome. And they're traveling in a group. They're traveling in a group. They're not from Egypt, right? They're from Sham. They're from Palestine. So they're dressed a certain way. They speak a certain language. And they were handsome. They were all handsome. And they were traveling in a group. And of course, you got highway robbers. You know what I mean? You got people who lie and wait, and they see a group of men walking. They dress a certain way. They're handsome. They're from out of town. So Yaqub is thinking, he's trying to do everything that he possibly can to protect his sons, but more importantly, Binyamin. He's trying to give them some advice. It's like what we tell our children, when you leave out, put your seatbelt on, don't be blasting the music, take your baseball cap off, don't do this. We're trying to protect them. We're giving them some old school advice, trying to protect their lives because we know the danger that lurks. We know the danger that is out there. You understand? So Yaqub alayhi salam was afraid of al-ain, the evil eye, because they were large in number, they were all handsome, and he did not want them to bring any negative attention to themselves. And this is something that we have to be mindful of, that when you walk into an environment, you walk into a room, you're dressed a certain way, you look a certain way, you speak a certain way, you're going to draw some negative attention to yourself. Be mindful. Be mindful of the rooms that you walk in and the eyes that lay upon you when you walk into the room. Be mindful. Be mindful. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room every single time you walk into a room. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room every time you walk in. Sometimes be, inconspicuous, incognito. Don't be so loud every time you walk into a room because you might be drawing negative attention to yourself. Very important. Old school rules. You want to go in dressed, dressed to impress every single venue and you got all eyes on you. Absolutely. So Yaqub alayhi salam is telling them that when you enter into Egypt, don't all of you go through the same door. I don't want you drawing a lot of attention to yourselves. I don't want you drawing a lot of attention to yourselves. And so he ordered them to enter through multiple areas, while taking their precautions. As the Prophet ﷺ said, Innal ayn haqq. Innal ayn haqqun. That the evil eye is real. Innal ayn haqqun. The evil eye is real. Bimujarrad an-nazar. Just by a person looking at you and desiring what you have, looking at you with the eye of envy, the eye of jealousy, they can affect you. They can inflict pain on you and your situation just by looking at you. The Prophet ﷺ said, Innal ayn haqqun. That the evil eye is real. He said, وَلَوْ كَانَ الشَّيْء يَسْبِقُ الْقَدَرِ لَسَبَقَتْهُ الْعَيْنِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, if there was anything that would overtake or that could overtake the qadr, it would be the evil eye. If there was ever anything that could overtake the qadr, it would be the evil eye. And so he also said to them after that, وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. That if death is decreed upon you, even if you take multiple entrances into Egypt, that's still not going to protect you from what Allah decreed. So he's teaching them Aqidah also. He's teaching them to take their precautions, but also to understand that nothing can circumvent the qadr. This is advice, old school advice from an old prophet. You understand? He told them, take their precautions. Don't enter into Egypt from one entrance. Take multiple entrances, just in case some harm comes to you. That's called taking your precautions. He said, but مَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. He said, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing can avail you against Allah's qadr. Meaning, if Allah has decreed that some harm come to you, even taking your precautions is not going to help you. Hikmah wa aqidah. Very good, Sister Aisha. Absolutely. Giving them wisdom, but also teaching them aqidah. Teaching them about the qadr. That take your precautions, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has some harm written to afflict you, there's nothing that no precaution is going to protect you against that. And this is the same way. I want you guys, Shay Youth Carter, since we're on the topic, I want you guys to pay attention to this. Yaqub told his sons, take your precautions. Don't enter into Egypt from one entrance. Take multiple entrances, just in case there's some harm that's going to come to you, that you can avoid it. He said, but if Allah has decreed for some harm to come to you, there's no way of circumventing it. There's no way of getting around it. There's something that we are dealing with right now currently that this advice from Yaqub applies. Coronavirus. Coronavirus. We take our precautions, but if something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed to happen to us, there is no way to circumvent it. So all this gloving up and putting masks on, distancing yourself 6 feet, you could distance yourself 20 feet. Wear masks, wear gloves, and still catch it. And there are many people that still have caught it. There's people who have been quarantining since the beginning of March, ain't been out the house but a little bit, and you still caught it. You understand? Take your precautions, but understand, nothing can avail you from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed that you're going to get this thing, you're going to get it. I don't care how much precautions you take. People going overboard. You're going overboard. There's people who have caught coronavirus sitting in their house. This stuff is airborne. This stuff is airborne. Ain't nobody getting it because somebody coughed on you. You getting it because it's already in the atmosphere. It's already in the world. It's already in the air. This stuff is airborne. Been airborne. Been airborne. You keep listening to the World Health Organization and all these other organizations that are backed and funded by these wealthy billionaires who want nothing more than to decrease the population. And you keep saying conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory. So what's real? What CNN is telling you, that's real? But anybody else telling you anything other than the narrative that they're feeding you is somehow a conspiracy theory. You gotta be kidding me, man. Everything is a conspiracy theory. Everything that you don't want to hear is a conspiracy theory. That's how we chalk it up. Because I don't want to hear it, it's a conspiracy theory. Right, the World Health Organization, CDC, these people have lied from the beginning of this crisis all the way up until this very moment. The only thing that we have to rely on is, number one, to take our precautions, doing what we have normally been doing as Muslims, washing our hands. Right? These rules don't necessarily apply to us. We make istinja. These are people who got all these rolls of tissue and you still wipe your behind with dry tissue. Go figure. You out here with gloves on and your fingernails is dirty. You out here with a mask on and you smoke cigarettes. You still smelling your own funky breath from the nicotine. You gotta be kidding me, man. This has to be a sick joke. This has to be a joke. And some of us are so simple-minded. You out here washing your hands. Like before this pandemic, were you washing your hands before this? Were you touching doorknobs before this? We take our precautions and we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we know nothing can avail you if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for you that you catch this thing, whatever it is, you're going to catch it. I don't care how much precaution you take. I don't care how much precaution you take. It's just ridiculous. As Muslims, we should be impervious to this nonsense. This doesn't apply to us. Number one, we don't believe anything you're saying because your word is not credible. So we don't believe nothing that is coming out of CNN or MSNBC or any of these, these news outlets. Your word is not credible. These the same people told you that they went into Iraq looking for weapons of mass destruction. And where are the weapons of mass destruction up until today? That president has gone. Another president came, had 2 terms after that, and we got another president, and we still ain't found no damn weapons of mass destruction. Meanwhile, you disrupted a whole entire country under the guise of looking for weapons of mass destruction. Muslims as terrorists. You gotta be kidding me, man. So their word is not credible. The only thing that we do know is that there is something out there. People are getting sick. People are getting sick. And we take our precaution, but we know that nothing can avail us from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing. And that's what Yaqub is teaching his sons. And so this is the same way that we view, all types of misfortunes and calamities, including COVID-19. We take our precautions, but whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for us, there is no escaping it. There's no circumventing it. After we take our precautions, we turn everything over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand? That is what, in essence, what Yaqub is telling his sons. Take your precautions, and after you've taken your precautions, turn it all over to God. Turn it over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that brings us to lesson number 57. Lesson number 57. No matter what your resources are, always take your precautions. I don't care what your resources are. I don't care how much you have, how many resources you got, still take your precautions. He's telling them that although you're 10 in number, you think that because you're a strong group, as they said to Yaqub at the beginning when they took Yusuf, and Yaqub said, I fear that a wolf will come by and eat him. And what did they say to Yaqub? They said that if that if a wolf can eat him while we're 10 in number and strong and 10 in number, then we're the greatest losers. You understand? They're looking at their numbers, they're looking at their resources. But Yaqub is telling them, regardless of your resources, take your precautions. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Doesn't care how much money. Oh, well, I got something else in the bank over here. So, but don't squander that. Take your precautions. Take your precautions. And this is something that is very important as it relates to marriage, because many of us think that we got Islam all figured out, and we go to the sit down and we think that because, I'm Imam Shadid Muhammad, or I'm Imam so-and-so, or I'm student of knowledge so-and-so, that anybody I sit down with, I'm going to convert them and get them on my practice of Islam. And then lo and behold, you don't take your precautions, you marry the person, and the person doesn't fit into your cookie cutter mold. And then it's just like, well, I got to let you go. I got to divorce you and let you go. But you didn't take your precautions from the beginning. You relied on the fact that you were a student of knowledge. You're knowledgeable about the religion. You got it all figured out. So anybody you marry is going to get on your practice of Islam. You don't control people. You don't control people. I don't care how much you know of the religion. And this whole idea that this is where I stand in the religion, and anybody I marry got to get down with my deen or my practice of deen, then basically you're marrying yourself. You're so head over heels about yourself. You want to marry you, because everybody you marry that doesn't fit the image of you, you're going to divorce. You're going to let go. You are so in love with yourself. You want to be married to you. And then you marry someone and you mold them and you're shaping them and you're molding them. You're blaming them. You're critiquing them. You're criticizing them until you can get them to look exactly the way that you want them to look. And guess how you want them to look? You want them to look just like you. You want to marry you. You want to marry you. You don't want the person for who they are. You want to be married to you. So you find everything wrong with the person, because everything that is wrong with the person is not because it's not you. It's not who you are. You understand? And we got this in the worst way, man. So and we don't take any precautions because we rely on our own resources. We rely on our own resources. Now, this is real talk. This is not a game. This is real talk. This is called a malignant narcissist. And some of us have got it in the worst way. You are malignant narcissist. No matter what your resources is, take your precautions. It doesn't matter what the other person, stop asking the person what they bring into the table. Just be mindful of what you are bringing to the table. Know your limits, know your threshold, know your capacity. And then what the person brings, you can look at it and see whether or not that's going to work for you or not. Take your precautions, no matter what your resources are. Take your precautions. This was a lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to teach the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum ajma'een in the battle of Hunayn. The battle of Hunayn, with the battle of Hunayn, which took place with some of the people of Ta'if, Thaqif. Some of the Arabs, they weren't feeling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam conquering Mecca. They had issue with that. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were looking at the fact that they were 12,000 in number. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ, that you were amazed by your numbers. You were amazed by your numbers. You were looking at your resources, not putting your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not taking your precautions. Surah number 9, ayah 25. Surah 9, ayah 25. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَوَاطٍ كَثِيرًا وَيَوْمَ حُنَيْنٍ, that Allah has assisted you. Allah is talking to the Sahaba. Allah has assisted you on many occasions, and even in the battle of Hunayn. إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ, when you were amazed with your numbers. فَلَمْ تُغْنِ عَنْكُمْ شَيْئًا, but it did not avail you anything. Although you had numbers, you had great numbers, but it didn't avail you anything. وَضَاقَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَرْضُ بِمَا رَحُبَتْ ثُمَّ وَلَيْتُمْ مُدْبِرِينَ, and the earth became constricted and restricted for you while you turned and ran back, retreating on your heels, even though you had great numbers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching them a lesson. Stop relying on your resources and take your precautions. I don't care how smart you think you are. I don't care how much money you believe you have. I don't care how articulate you believe you are. I don't care how beautiful you think you are. Some women, you in your princess phase, you believe that you can have any man you want, and you probably can. You probably can have any man that you want. But in reality, you will never get the man that you want. You can have any man that you want, but you won't get the man that you want. You won't get the man that you need until after you learn some hard lessons in your life. Because you're relying on your resources. You're relying on how pretty you are. I'm pretty. My body looks like this. But when the man is angry with you, a man is upset with you, all of that goes out the window. They don't care how beautiful you are and how bad your body is. Think about your attitude and how he can't stand being in the same room with you because of your attitude. Yeah, but meanwhile, you pretty, you cute, your body banging, all of that's good, but your attitude is funky. Your attitude is horrible. You're relying on your resources and not taking your precautions by going and learning how to check your behavior so that you can maintain a relationship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now fast forwarding to them entering into Egypt. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَهُمْ أَبُوهُمْ ما كان يغني عنهم من الله من شيء إلا حاجة في نفس يعقوب قضاها إنه لذو علم لما علمنا ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that when they entered into Egypt according to their father's advice, so they took Yaqub's advice. They took Yaqub's advice. So they entered into Egypt through different entrances, taking Yaqub's advice. And it did not avail them in the least against the will of Allah, because the very thing that they were walking into was the very thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was setting them up for. The very thing that they were walking into was the very thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was setting them up for. However, they followed the advice only because they wanted to satisfy the heart of Yaqub, All right. And verily, he was endowed with knowledge because we had taught him, but most know not. Yaqub instructed them such out of love for his children. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala double back and praises Yaqub for his knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Innahu ladhu ilmin lima alamna. That Yaqub is the possessor of knowledge because of what we taught him. Because of what we taught him. Meaning the advice that Yaqub gave to his sons was knowledge that came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he endowed Yaqub with. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is praising Yaqub for his knowledge and disseminating that knowledge, because the fact of the matter is that to have knowledge and then not act upon it is frivolous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Jews, about the Bani Israel, that they're like, كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. That they are like donkeys that carry books on their backs. They got the knowledge, but they don't use it. Yaqub had the knowledge and he put it to use. He had the knowledge and he put it to use. He told his sons, do this, do this, do this. Don't enter into Egypt through one entrance, enter through multiple entrances. He had the knowledge and he executed that knowledge. And that is what makes knowledge beneficial. All right, Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, "Man lam ya'mal bima ya'lam, la yakunu aliman." He who does not act upon the knowledge that he has is no scholar. He who does not act on the knowledge that he has is no scholar, no student of knowledge. It sounds good, but you don't even act upon, and none of us do. None of us act 100% upon everything that we know. None of us do. None of us do. Some people throw that in your face. Oh, you're supposed to be a student of knowledge, or you're supposed to be a sheikh. Okay, and you're supposed to be a good Muslim. I mean, that makes both of us. So we're both in the same, you understand? We're both in the same boat. You're supposed to be a good Muslim. All right? So that makes both of us. Nobody acts upon everything that they know. Nobody does. Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, "Inna la na'murukum bi ashya wa la na'maluhu." Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the scholar from amongst the Sahaba, he said that indeed we may instruct you, we scholars, we may instruct you to do things that we don't even do ourselves. We may instruct you. Just because a person is giving you knowledge, giving you information, doesn't mean that they act on every single thing. But we try our best. But the person who has knowledge and does not act on any of his knowledge is no scholar. It's no scholar whatsoever. So another benefit here is that taking your precautions does not contradict tawakkul. This is a latifa. This is just a subtle benefit that we get from the advice of Yaqub. Al-akhdhu bil-asbab la yunafi at-tawakkul. Taking your precautions does not contradict trusting in Allah. Okay? Just because you take your precautions doesn't mean that you're not trusting in Allah. Rather, by taking your precautions is an indication that you do trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people don't do anything. Some people get sick, right? This is the dilemma. Some people get sick, and rather than taking some type of medication or anything, they say, no, I'm not going to take anything. I'm not going to take any medication. I'm just going to trust in Allah. Yeah, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can facilitate your cure through the medication. You're not taking the medication believing that the medication is going to cure you. The medication does not cure. Allah cures. Allah is a shafi. Allah yashfi. What did Ibrahim say? فَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينَ. That when I am sick, He cures me. The medicine does not cure you. The medicine is just a sabab min al-asbab. It is just a means by which you can attain the cure. Perhaps Allah will cure you through the medication. The medication itself does not cure you. You understand? The medication itself does not cure you. But by taking the medication, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can facilitate your cure through the medication. You understand? Some people say, oh, I'm not going to take anything. I'm going to just wait it out. I'm going to put my trust in Allah. Man, that is not putting your trust in Allah. Where are you getting that from? We have been so miseducated. We have been so miseducated, man. But we learn from the statement of Ya'qub that al-akhdhu bil-asbab la yunafi at-tawakkul, that taking your precautions does not contradict tawakkul. It does not contradict putting your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand? We take medication. Bismillah, we take it, right? Exactly. Bismillah. And we are hoping when we take the medication that Allah will facilitate our cure through the medication. It's not believing in the medication. It's believing in the one that cures you through the medication. You understand? So Ya'qub's advice to his sons not to enter into Egypt through one path perhaps saved their lives from a world of trouble. Perhaps the advice of Ya'qub saved them from a lot of trouble, because let's just say they had been, entered into Egypt through one pathway and they were all together and they had all been, confronted by highway robbers or, bandits or whatever the case may be. He could have lost all of his children in one whop. Lost all of his children. Right here in Delaware, last year, there was a father who was driving in a car with one of his children. And there was another car, one of his sons, and two other children, three of his other children in the car behind them. The father turns the corner. They're going around a bend. They turn the corner. The father looks in the rearview mirror and doesn't see his son behind him. The father turns around. Turns the car around and sees that the car had went into the water. They went over the bend and went into the water. Subhanallah, I think. And they all drowned. Except one of the children that was in the car with him. All of his other children drowned. All three of them. They found the bodies, after some days. They found one body here, and then they had to go back and they had to go, subhanallah, man. But at least he was able to save one of his kids. One of his kids survived because that was the kid that was in the car. Just imagine if you put all your kids in one car, you putting everybody in one car, and it's just like, if something happened to that car, that's my whole family. That's my whole squad right there, gone, wiped out. And I mean, we take our precautions, but we realize, what's wrong? You take your precautions, but you also put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But taking your precautions does not contradict. It does not contradict tawakkul. Ya'qub's advice saved them from a world of trouble. Children don't understand this because their lack of life experience leaves them oblivious and, sometimes naive to potential danger. Especially as it relates to police brutality. With our children leaving out the home today, any one of our children can be pulled over by a road cop, by a cop that's having a bad day, by a cop who just feel like, today I'm going to shoot a nigga. Today is the day that I let my gun loose on a nigga. Any one of our children can be subject to that. Any one of our children could be subject to that. And, giving our children that advice. If you get pulled over, make sure you got your wallet, make sure you got your license, make sure this. We are literally giving our children instructions the same way Ya'qub gave his sons instructions on entering into Egypt through multiple entries. We are literally giving our children the same instructions today every single time they leave out of the house. You got your wallet with you. You got everything. You got your phone is charged. Make sure you stay off your phone. Make sure you got your seatbelt on. Make sure you use your blinkers. And children sometimes, due to their naivete, they don't realize. They think that we're just being overburdensome. They think that we're just being, old school and just, but the fact of the matter is that we're trying to give you something that's going to save your life, right? We're trying to teach you how to survive, and so sometimes because they lack experiences in life, It makes them oblivious and sometimes naive to potential danger and harm. They think that we're being extra and exaggerating. And if they only knew the danger, that our advice is protecting them from. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, moving on, ayat number 69. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُفَ آوَى إِلَيْهِ أَخَاهُ قَالَ إِنِّي أَنَا أَخُوكَ فَلَا تَبْتَئِسْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And so they entered upon Yusuf. I want you now to pay attention. I want to take you back to, these emotional parts of this story. I want to take you to these emotional places that we've been. This story has literally been an emotional roller coaster. Literally. This story has literally been an emotional roller coaster. So now they enter into the court, the king's court. قال سعدي أنه اختصه من بين إخوته وأخبره بحقيقة الحال ثم خبره بما يريد أن يصنع. The Imam Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala said that when the brothers entered into the court, Yusuf is sitting there next to the king and he lays his eyes on Binyamin. He sees his brother. He sees his brother who he has not seen in 40 years. Can you imagine? He sends the brothers, go back to Palestine, bring your younger brother back here, right? The whole while he's hiding the fact that he's Yusuf, controlling his emotions as he's talking to them. Can you imagine all of the control, that he had to exert in these moments? You know what I mean? Like, he can't tell them that he's Yusuf. He's not ready to expose that yet. Because he needs to secure his father and his brother. He needs to secure them first before he exposes to them who he is. So he has to maintain, his composure. So he's talking to his brothers, not to mention these are the same brothers that wronged him, oppressed him, sold him into slavery, threw him into a well. So he's keeping his composure the whole time that he's talking to them. And then he sends them back to Palestine to go get the younger brother. And now, can you imagine the anxiety that he's experiencing as he's waiting for them? This didn't happen over a period of days. They're on donkeys. They're on donkeys and camels going from Egypt to Palestine. You get a chance to look at the map, look at the distance between Egypt and Palestine. That's not a small hike. This took weeks. This took weeks. So can you imagine the anxiety that Yusuf is experiencing when he sent them back to Palestine the first time? He's waiting, sitting there twiddling his fingers, waiting to see, because he set them up really nice, leaving them really no option but to come back. So he knew they were going to come back, but he got to sit there and he got to wait it out. I can't wait to see my brother. I can't wait to see my younger brother. I haven't seen this kid in 40 years. I miss my brother. I want, I need to see my brother. You ever had not seen one of your siblings, one of your more favorite or dear siblings, you have not seen them in a while. And then when you see them and you haven't seen them in a while, you just embrace each other. You just embrace each other. You understand? This was Yusuf's brother from the same mother. You understand? There's a special bond that he has with Binyamin. You understand? This is a special bond that he has with Binyamin. They're from the same mother, same father. And then they share, a mutual misfortune in that their mother died after giving birth. After giving birth to, Binyamin. So they share a mutual misfortune. That even brings people closer. That brings people even closer. Myself and my sister were put in the same foster home. That made me and my sister closer because we shared a mutual misfortune. You understand? That is my heart. That is my heart. We were taken away from my mother and put into foster home. We were split up initially, and then eventually they put me in the same foster home with my sister. We have a shared experience. We have a mutual misfortune that we shared in. That's a bond that brings us even closer. You understand? Subhanallah al-Azim. That is a bond that brings people even closer. So it's not the fact that they're just their biological brothers, but they also share a mother that they lost, both of them. You understand? Subhanallah. So Yusuf pulls Binyamin to the side. You understand? Pulls Binyamin to the side and, wants to reward, once the brothers unpack their stuff and they're ready to load their animals up with the stuff, Yusuf takes Binyamin to the side. And he begins to tell Binyamin who he is, right? Some of the scholars of tafsir, Imam al-Baghawi, he mentions the conversation between Binyamin and Yusuf. Just imagine being a fly on the wall, being able to hear this conversation between Yusuf and